houses and stuff that people would have lived in.
They found old shorelines, basically. Villages on shorelines.
And it's a really deep. The Black Sea is really deep. So.
But it used to be a lot smaller than it is.
Yeah, it used to be way smaller than the ice cap. Whatever. Anyways, a flood actually happened in that area, but it happened in 5000 BC, and people kind of accept that that's when like Noah's flood would have happened, is 5000 BC, which is 5,000 years later than our little temple, which couldn't possibly be.
So it sounds like it had nothing to do with it. So
this is a convenient marrying of two stories.
It is.
Okay.
So then the next one is. Joe was kind of hinting at earlier is that this is the historical site of the parabolic Garden of Eden.
How so?
Okay, so most people, again, accept that the Garden of Eden story is a parable. It's not an actual thing that happened, that like God didn't actually like reach out of the sky and from dirt create one single man and then from his rib create one single woman. Most people kind of accept that it was kind of the moment when we turned from the hunter-gatherer society into kind of a more agricultural society, kind of gained the knowledge of right and wrong.
Well, and that's when we became, when with the apple and everything, we became the knowledge of good and evil. In other words, we became more than animals. We became people,
human,
who were able to understand what our actions were all about. And therefore, we couldn't just, I can't just like, if I'm a wolf, I can go devour another creature. Well, I'm not a murderer, I'm just a wolf. If I'm a human being and I go kill another human being, well, I'm a murderer because I know better. And that's what it's all about.
Because you recognize that it's another person and it's not just some prey.
Okay. So it's like, and so the whole gist of that is that that's our intelligence is also our curse.
Yeah.
That's the ancient wisdom of Adam and Eve in the Bible.
Yeah. And most people kind of accept that it was a thing that actually happened in human history. It was kind of an event. To add to this, the Bible has kind of like vague coordinates, like it's between two rivers for the actual.
Wow, where on the earth are there two rivers?
Eden.
Oh, like everywhere.
It says which two rivers, and it kind of talks about the landmass. And previously, biblical historians had placed it within 50 miles of where Göbekli Tepe is. So that's really, of all of the places in the world,
again,
that's
we're
really
kind of
close.
falling pretty close with the pin.
Yeah, and again, like the Fertile Crescent, Mesopotamia, there's not a whole, you kind of, you put it up on the dartboard and you're pretty close to everywhere.
It's relatively close to everything.
People are kind of talking about it being like a geographical turning point, like the place where we came together as Homo sapiens and realized that there was maybe something more than just killing everything. Became like what we would call fully human.
And we were more than just running around and chasing critters down and eating everything we found. We could make it ourselves and cultivate it.
Yep. So, that was kind of the thing that we were talking about a little bit earlier, that this place was really like paradise at that point. It looked beautiful.
Unspoiled.
It was totally unspoiled. There was everything we needed. There were rivers, there were fish, there were, like massive amounts of wheat and stuff like that we could cultivate, and there were animals that we could turn into herds and we could become shepherds. And it seems like it would have been like, if there was gonna be a place for this historical turning point in our evolution, this would have been it.
It's it's conceivable. There's a theory that originally the old theory is that Egypt had a very advanced, wealthy society, and then they decided to build the pyramids. And yet there's another theory that essentially the building of the pyramids actually drew people in from the countryside and got people learning skills and stuff. And actually, that's in a sense is what kickstarted and created Egyptian society. And their civilization.
Basically, the city had jobs.
Yeah.
Which is what we see today in all over the world. We go to the city because there's jobs, and then you learn the skill and move out.
So it sort of reverses that whole thing. And it is a possibility. If you can sort of see this idea that the building of this thing, which would have been a monumental undertaking back in those days, would have drawn people in from all over and actually created a civilization. It actually could have been the kernel of a civilization, which of course has long since died out. And that's a compelling theory, except where did all the buildings go? Maybe they're still buried somewhere. They probably are. But that's the interesting thing, is that there should be villages surrounding this thing.
Well,
maybe they're there and they're still just buried and we haven't found them yet.
Yeah, I mean, as we said, they've only excavated what they estimate to be 5% of this place. I mean, maybe it turns out that all the rest of the things were actually like living facilities or working facilities or something, or it was tents.
Yeah.
Or if you think about, and tents is kind of where I'm going, if you think about a lot of major cities in third world countries where they have very advanced building technology, but then everybody goes home to a very poor, ragged society.
Like a mud hut, yeah.
Right. And today
Certainly
it's everybody's
huts, yeah.
just tin.
Yeah.
But back then, it may have been 7 sticks and a couple of pieces of hide that you hung up, and you had this barrio, for lack of a better term, all around it. That's where everybody lived in their kind of barrio tent city. And when you were done, he left. I'm going to take his stick, and I'm going to take that stick, and I'm going to take this skin. And then, of course, they break down, and they wear out, and they get beat down. And that would explain why there's no record of this stuff, because it was so thin, is the only word I can come to mind. But just so short-lived that of course we can't find it.
So, but I mean, the thing about it is people leave junk behind. People have garbage dumps and things like that. If I were an archaeologist and I were working on this project,
you'd be looking for a USB drive.
Yeah, exactly.
The black box of this thing.
Yeah, no, I would. I would be looking for the nearest spring, the nearest creek, the nearest river. Where probably people would have set up camp and built their villages and stuff. And I would be looking for garbage dumps and just looking for residue.
10,000 years or 12,000.
It's going to be hard.
Everything's moved.
This is
uninhabited.
It's also not uninhabited. There are people who have been living here. It's literally like the cradle of civilization. Hundreds of different communities have come and lived in spaces like this. The reason they found this place is because a shepherd had his sheep wandering over it. I mean,
it's possible. I mean, I don't know where the nearest village is in relation to this. How far? A mile? 2 miles?
Yeah, not far. Yeah.
So, I mean, that village might actually have been one of the villages of this little civilization that built this thing.
Maybe, they've built it on top of that. There's an airport like 30 miles away.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. That's why we'd need to go into those villages and basically kick the people out and start excavating.
I think that's probably fair.
Yeah, that sounds fair to me.
Oh, you're so going to be on the society committee, Joe.
So that's all the theories. But I guess, there are just so many. I mean, there are mysteries of like why and how.
Why? Why did they fill them in?
Who knows?
That's the thing that throws me. Every stinking time that I review this story is, why in the hell did somebody fill it in?
Yeah.
And I know I said this before, but I can only see that one culture built it, and another culture was scared of them, and let's say they considered them demons or something, or they were gods, or I don't care which way you go with it, but there was some hesitation to just destroy what they had made because of the backlash, so you just fill it in.
Well,
I guess
cover it up.
It was pretty much
away.
Until pretty recently in human history, whenever you overthrew another city or overthrew another people, you always razed their city and murdered all the inhabitants. And so in this case, it's like, it's not exactly a city, it's kind of underground a little bit, so we'll just fill it in instead. That's good enough. But I think another possibility is that the people that built this, and of course this is a long-term project, they might have intended to actually put a roof on this thing of stone. So, I mean, if you look at those T-shaped stones that by the way were set in holes in the ground, everything to hold them upright and everything, they look like freeway supports almost. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
If you look at the picture,
they do.
They look like something that was built to support a span. Something that somebody at some point was planning on coming and setting a big slab of rock on top of, to make a roof for that thing.
Well, that's where the mothership was going to land.
Yeah, that's that too. If you wanted to do that, the logistics of it are daunting. The easiest way to do it, I would think, would be to fill in that whole area around them. Then you wheel in your slab and muscle it on top of that thing. And then afterwards, when you're all done, you scoop the fill out again. And voila, you've got your thing. But, of course, ancient civilizations, like our own civilization today, being fragile and subject to disruption and even extinction. Somewhere between the filling in and actually the quarrying of this big piece to go on top, something happened, and the project never got completed. Another possibility is that they got the roof on there, and then somebody else came along afterwards, after they were extinct, and wanted to salvage those big slabs of stone for some of their project. So they filled it in just to facilitate getting the stones down, the big slabs of stone.
I like the idea that it's preservation. I think we as humans, we don't tend to destroy things that we perceive as very important. Mm-hmm. All
we tend to destroy things we perceive as important to other people, though.
To other people, yeah. But if we think they're important, I mean, it's, things like the pyramids. Yeah, okay, there was like marble on there once, right? And like, okay, we stripped that off. And we didn't destroy, like demolish them.
Well,
that was a lot of work.
That would have been a major undertaking to
But it would have been a major undertaking to destroy these things too, right? I just think, in my like beautiful utopian world, right? This is the Garden of Eden. And we've just and then we're like, oh man, we should keep this. Like, people are going to want to know about this. All right, let's fill it in. Let's fill it in. I understand that's like
that's pie in the sky.
Theory.
That's pie in the sky. Come on.
It's totally a bad theory, but like in my brain, in my like little fantasy world, that's totally what happened.
Okay. Yeah,
what do you think?
I think that either somebody wanted to destroy them by burying them, or somebody had a practical purpose in doing it.
That's fair. What do you think, Steve? You just look angry.
No, I don't look angry. I just
don't lie to our viewers.
And as with everything, there's a piece missing that doesn't add up for me. I've already said my piece of I don't buy into the age of these things based on the evidence that we can find, but I do. I find it intriguing and odd that the whole thing was filled in, but I don't know why, and so I don't know which way to go. I mean, again, I kind of feel like one group built it and another group found it, and we're mystified and either revered or afraid of that first group backfilled it, because the backfill is the big mystery to me.
Yeah.
Now, why the hell did somebody build this in the first place?
Yeah.
Why did somebody? Because I can only imagine the size of this site.
Yeah.
That had to take a long time to fill this in, and not just fill it in, but you got to overfill it, because anybody who's filled in a hole knows that things compact and settle. Which means that you've got to just cover tons and tons of material over it. So that's where the big mystery for me is.
Maybe they were scared of falling in.
That could have been.
They didn't want to fall in and hit their head on a big
It could have been like an OSHA thing. They were afraid of lawyers. Yeah. It's like, oh my God, we could get sued.
There's lawyers in the future? I'll fill this thing
man.
in. Yeah, those guys at Stonehenge, they're taking their own risk, but not us.
No.
And that's why. But that's why I think that my theory, it's still probably incredibly fallible. But the idea that somebody filled it in just so they could spirit away those big slabs of stone, which, by the way, when you think about it, the slabs of stone they would have taken to span those things would have been huge. And if you
have somebody take the time to cut them out for you ahead of time, that's pretty awesome.
So if you think about it, if you come along and you're looking at those things and you're thinking, how can we salvage those things? We can go down to some quarry and we can spend 50 years chiseling these things out of the rock, or we can get them out of here. Getting them out by filling in that whole thing and spiriting them away would probably be a much easier job than going and quarrying them yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of why I'm thinking either somebody did that to salvage those things, or they did that in order to get them on there to begin with. And of course, this is pure speculation. Yeah. And I'm probably totally full of it.
So that's all the theories, and we already talked about what we like and what we don't like. Aliens, maybe, probably. Plasma events, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the plasma event thing.
It was the mother race.
That is one of the most far-flung theories I've heard.
Rather
where
absurd,
even I couldn't. I mean, I tried to be the pragmatist of the group and say, well, maybe, but even I'm like, no.
Oh, the idea,
I can't buy that.
The idea that somebody's going to look up at the sky and see a bunch of Aurora Borealis events and think, wow, let's go carve a ton of stone out and build a thing. You know what I mean?
That looks exactly like a bird. Cool.
And of course, remember, these things must have taken a long, long time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so at some point, somebody's just say, why are we doing this exactly? I mean, yeah.
Dad, why have I been doing this for the last 27 years?
Daddy?
Because I told you to.
Yeah, we had some lights in the sky. That's it.
Because we thought once.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
So, so this is
this is
it's a big mystery. We've been doing a lot of mysteries lately.
Yeah, we always do.
I guess it's what we do.
Yeah, I think that ancient man really liked carving stone a lot. That's it
was his pastime.
Yeah,
he hadn't invented soccer yet.
I know.
So he just carved stone.
When I was in Peru and I was looking at there's these incredible stonework creations that they made, these incredible walls and stuff like that, and the amount of care it must have taken. And I thought to myself, why did they do this? And the only theory I could come up that was plausible is that this was their form of art. This was like they didn't have like painting and all this other stuff. This was what everybody was into. It's like, wow, we're going to build these really awesome walls.
Well, think about it this way, though, is that if you look at it from an art standpoint, I can do watercolors on paper. Or I can do oil paintings on canvas.
Yeah.
Which one degrades and falls apart first?
Ooh.
Watercolor on paper. Because paper just falls apart, especially paper at the time.
Yeah.
So I can carve a log and I can do beautiful work, but that means that it's going to be outside and it's going to be displayed for everybody to see.
And it's going to fall apart.
It's going to fall apart within 10 years at the outside. It'll have degraded completely.
Whereas
so that means
will last.
The only way that I can show my reverence is to do it and show my artistic ability is to put it in something permanent, which would be stone. So that's to me that would be a logical reason why to use stone all the time.
Yeah, I mean it was just what people were into, So it was their art form.
It was, and I guess it's just so interesting to see something as large scale as this.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just like a giant art exhibit.
Yeah.
Right? But it's a big art exhibit.
Yeah.
Very big.
So
Smithsonian eat your heart out on this one.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's Gobekli Tepe.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Gobekli
Tepe.
Gobekli Tepe.
For once I can pronounce it.
We've been mangling it all night.
I think it's Gobekli Tepe. Gobekli Tepe.
Who knows?
It's gobbledygook. That's what it is. Okay.
It's Turkish.
Now, anyway, we have solved the mystery, so it was aliens. Okay, so you can put your money on that.
Yes, it was aliens.
Yeah.
You're
Thank
right.
you, Joe.
So thank you, Joe, for solving that mystery for us.
Yeah.
Archaeologists disband.
Yep.
So if you want to see any of the pictures, because I know we've been talking about a lot of stuff that you kind of just have to see to understand. If you want to see any of the links that we have, anything like that, you can just visit our website. That's thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. If you have information to give to us, if you have gripes about the information that I have presented, which I'm sure you will.
Or if you're an alien.
Or if you're an alien who created this thing, please contact us at thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. You're probably listening to us on iTunes. If you are, please give us a rating and a comment. We like to hear from you.
Absolutely.
Also, take a look at us on Stitcher if you forget to download us, if you want to do it on the go, or you don't have iTunes. Some people don't have iTunes.
Yeah, that's true.
Really?
Listen to us on Stitcher. It's great. You can just download whenever. And
you just stream it right there out of your
perfect.
mobile
You don't
device.
even download it. You just stream it, and it's the perfect thing ever. Yeah, find us on Facebook. Give us a like. We've got like 3 of you so far that like us. It's perfect. I know there are more
3
of you.
million.
3 million. No, they're going to go there and they're going to see there's like 3 people. It's fine. It doesn't matter. We're not doing a popularity contest. We're just presenting awesome stuff. And we know that you love us and we love you and we just want to talk to you.
You sound
all the
like
time.
Barney there for a second.
We're just like the overly attached girlfriend of podcasts is all is happening right now.
No, you sounded like Barney.
You sound like Barney, yeah.
So Barney, what's next?
I don't know. I guess that's everything.
She is kind of wearing purple, isn't she?
No! So on that note, I'm going to say goodbye and we'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
We'll talk to you soon, everybody.
Thinking Sideways. mysteries of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of Thinking Sideways. I'm Joe, your host.
I'm Steve.
Your co-host.
Oh, yeah, I guess we're all co-hosts, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I'm Devin, your host.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're just getting together one more time to solve another unsolved mystery. This week we're going to talk about the Hagley Wood mystery. Ooh, yeah, it's a creepy one. A little intro here. There's an area in the West Midlands of England. The West Midlands is like the western part of the middle part of England, which is like kind of abuts Wales for all those who really care.
The western part of
the middle part.
Yeah.
Very specific.
Yeah, exactly.
I like where this is going.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's that part that's kind of just east of Wales. Anyway, there's an area there known as the Black Country, which earned its name with its dark, mysterious, macabre past. And, well, it's not really true. It was at the heart of the coal industry, and a good part of the Industrial Revolution took place there. And it was so smoky and sooty that it was said to be black by day and red by night.
Oh.
So that's
red by night, I'm assuming, is from fires?
Yeah, from coal fires and furnaces and foundries and all kinds of good stuff. But anyway, I'm sure there's a Mountain of Death somewhere there, or Creek of Doom. Or
Yeah. Actually, so there's the Mountain of the Dead in Egypt.
Yeah.
Mountain of Death in Costa Rica.
Those
A
are right in the
Valley of
neighborhood.
Death in Poland. Death Valley, California. Highway of Death, I think, in Bolivia. Valley of Doom is a video game. Do you want me to keep going?
So no, you're right.
There's a lot of deaths.
Yeah, right in the neighborhood too. So so I think
they're all right there.
I think we could say without equivocation that the Black Country has earned its dark, creepy reputation.
I agree. Yeah.
For sure. Okay, case solved. No. All right. So anyway, our saga begins in April 1943. Four young lads were out poaching on the estate of somebody named Lord Cobham, and so there was a patch of woods on his estate. He had a fairly large estate, but there's a patch of woods called Hagley Wood, and they were looking for birds' nests so they could steal some birds' eggs for food, because this was wartime and rations were a little short, so they can get a little extra food here.
So they were looking for anything that they could.
They were tired of potatoes.
Yeah, pretty
kill
much.
Or steal.
Yeah, they wanted to kill some small, helpless animals or steal some birds' eggs, whatever they could.
Protein of some kind, I think.
Exactly. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So anyway, they're looking for birds' nests in the trees of Hagley Wood, and they find this one. I don't know if you guys saw the picture of it. We'll certainly post it on the website. It's a weird looking tree. It's a creepy tree.
It looks like what is that? It looks like something out of the last Headless Horseman movie with. Was it Johnny Depp that was in that?
Yeah, Johnny Depp played Ichabod Crane.
Yeah, and they had that really.
Was it a Tim Burton film?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And it was a crazy tree at the end, and that's what I thought of as soon as I saw this picture.
He has a thing for weird trees.
He does.
He has a thing for weird everything. I love his casting of Christopher Walken as the Headless Horseman too.
Yeah,
that was
totally.
good. Yeah, he made a credible one. I mean, he's creepy no matter what, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, back to this tree. So they spot a tree that looks like it's got some nests in it. So one of them climbs up the tree and finds a large hole in the side of the tree. Looking into the hole, he spots a skull. Yeah.
Like a bird skull?
He's thinking it's an animal skull, so he grabs a stick and he pokes a stick in and kind of hooks it and brings it out, and surprise, surprise, it's a human skull.
How old is this kid?
You know, actually, I never got their ages.
I'm guessing they're younger boys.
Yeah, in all the places I was looking at, I'm guessing they're probably
like
12, 14, something like that.
What does every preteen boy do? He grabs a stick and he pokes it.
Yeah,
What's that? Let's poke it with a stick.
Yeah. I mean, it must have been turned down in such a way that you couldn't see the face of the skull.
Probably.
And, otherwise, you're looking at the face of a human skull. I mean, hey,
it's pretty obvious.
It's pretty obvious. So
it's a human skull. Huh?
Yeah, but anyway, so they decided to put it back in the tree, and they headed back to town. And since they had been trespassing, they thought they would just keep it a secret.
This seems to be kind of a reoccurring theme in all of our kind of mysterious dead things, right? Like somebody discovers the body and is like, well, I don't really want to report it, so they wait a couple days and then they decide to report it.
Yeah.
Right? We've talked about this in a number of cases.
Oh, yeah. I think it's, I don't want to tell anybody I found a body.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
It's going to be awkward.
Well, there was one time I woke up from a blackout and found a body in my bedroom, so I didn't report that one right away. In fact, I never did.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it kind of does, yeah. So one of the boys had second thoughts, and so he told his dad about what they found. and if the little rat had just kept his pie hole shut,
then
we wouldn't be sitting here wasting our time in the studio.
If it wasn't for those darn kids.
I know.
Oh, thank you.
Darn kids. Yeah, so anyway, but, it's history now. There's nothing you can do about it. So we're stuck here in the studio solving this mystery. Yeah. Naturally, Dad tells the police, and so the police and the kids come back to the place the next day with the posse of the Po-Po, who look into the tree and discover, and the kids aren't lying. There's a human skull in there and some bones. And so, And so, they called in some heavy lifter investigators from the big city, like Birmingham is the largest town nearby. One of the people they called in was a forensic scientist named Professor J.M. Webster, who he was the one who actually lifted the skull out of the tree, and he found cloth wedged in the mouth of the skull. So that led him to believe that there was murder involved, and that this person had been smothered by having cloth stuffed in her mouth, apparently. And so he declared that he said it was probably murder, and they declared it a crime scene, which meant they had this time to get serious now. And so they started searching the area. And this is one place where there's a little bit of divergence in the stories. As always, there's divergence in all these different versions of it. One is that the skull and a complete skeleton were all in the tree, and in another version, they found bones scattered all over the place. Yeah. Oh, I should say in the first version, the complete skeleton except for the right hand, which had been severed and was found nearby.
I was going to say, I remember specifically people saying the hand was buried outside the tree.
Yeah, the hand was buried outside the tree, and everything else was in there. But other accounts say that there were other bones also found outside the tree, which is entirely possible. I mean, because if the body was there for any length of time, animals would have gotten in there. And probably pulled out a thigh here or an arm bone there and chewed on those.
I mean, think of raccoons are not small creatures. I know Devin loves raccoons.
Man.
But I mean, you think about a raccoon getting in there, and it's bonus time. Woohoo!
Take some of this tasty morsels. Oh yeah, you bet. So most likely some of the bones were scattered about by animals.
Sure. Well, unless she was wedged so tightly in there. I'm sure we'll cover this.
Yeah. And it might be that she was killed by a deranged serial killer who chopped her into pieces and then
scattered her bones,
scattered all over the place.
Yeah.
The hand was found nearby. That was significant to some people, and we'll talk about that a little later. They also found in the hole, they found some fragments of clothing, a gold ring, apparently a wedding ring, also one shoe, and also some accounts say that there was a green bottle in the tree as well.
Like glass?
Yeah, a glass green bottle.
Huh.
Yeah, not all of them do. So.
Like a wine bottle, size wine bottle?
I got the impression it was a smaller bottle than that.
Like a tincture?
More like a medicine type bottle. Yeah. Anyway, so when they were pretty well assured they'd gotten all the bones, they bagged them up and took them back to the professor's lab, and he reassembled the skeleton. And he drew some conclusions from his reassembly. He concluded the body was a woman, that she was about 5 feet tall and roughly 35 to 40 years old. She had a child at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that was something I didn't realize you could find out from bones.
But if somebody was a woman or not?
No, if they had a child or not.
Oh, I think the
hip bones.
Yeah, the hip bones. Don't they change?
Yes.
They change when you give birth.
You know what? I never want to do now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So hard that your bones change.
Yeah, it's okay. Oh, next up, she had a deformation in her lower jaw, and a molar had recently been pulled, which gave them hope that they could find a dentist somewhere who could identify the person who they found.
Again, I got to stop and ask. So how would you know that the molar had recently been pulled?
I don't really know, but I'm guessing that when you pull a molar out, I think it kind of breaks up and scars it. Have you ever had a molar removed? Yeah, like wisdom teeth, whatever.
Yeah.
Like when they stick the auger in with your wisdom teeth.
The auger.
And the auger in, and they start reefing on that thing, and you can hear things crunching and breaking in there.
So are you thinking that the bone is damaged and the bone where the roots hasn't healed up?
Yeah, it still hasn't entirely. That's my guess.
Okay. I'm no dentist, so I don't know this.
I think also the jawbone is pretty good at healing itself. So if there's a hole where the molars roots were, I don't know this. This is just speculation, but doesn't that hole kind of get some tissue? Doesn't it kind of seal up a little bit?
You're talking about the gums over the top, or are you talking about just the hole that are left in? Yeah. I would think it would seal up.
There'd be some recognition of kind of time.
Okay. All right. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's my best guess. So let's see what else. There were no visible signs of injury or violence on the bones. And of course, that doesn't mean she wasn't done in violently.
Right.
It just means it didn't leave a mark on the bone. So she could have been
There were
stabbed.
no fractures or...
Yeah, no fractures, so she wasn't
Blunt
beaten
force
to death,
trauma to break
nothing
a bone,
like that,
yeah.
But she still could say could have been stabbed to death, as long as they didn't hit a bone with a knife, then, hey,
Yeah.
But he surmised that the cause of death was suffocation due to the cloth in her mouth. So,
Okay.
well, good enough, I guess. He surmised also the body had been stuck in the hole before rigor mortis had set in because the hole was so small that they had to have a little bit of flexibility to work with, to sort of squeeze her in there. And so, yeah, with rigor mortis, it probably would have been hard to get her in the hole. And he also, lastly, surmised that death had occurred 18 months, more or less, prior to discovery of the body.
And I'm guessing that's based on the fact that there was some flesh and hair still on,
yeah,
wasn't there?
Yeah. But I'm not sure again how you do this. Originally, I think he concluded that it could have been up to 4 years prior, and then he revised it based on I'm not sure what.
Probably weather patterns and stuff.
I don't know.
Or maybe it was tree growth. Maybe you would say, well, this tree couldn't have grown. It would have grown more over her bodies. Her bones would have been more incorporated into the tree.
Well, that would have taken. It would have taken a long time.
The
for
hole
the tree
would have been smaller.
to incorporate it, the bones. That would take a long time.
Sure, but no. I mean, I guess if 4 years is a reasonable amount of time for you to see a little bit of that, like the hole being smaller than she would have fit into, or something. Maybe I don't know, or maybe not. Maybe he was just totally making things up.
He could have been. Yeah,
It could have. I believe the term is educated guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
hypothesis.
Very educated guess. Yeah, I think and you never know. He might have made that judgment from the extent of deterioration of the cloth because she was wearing clothing. Maybe that was a better, or maybe the amount of corrosion or tarnishing on the gold ring. I mean,
I guess there is a lot of different ways that you could make that estimate.
Yeah, there's all kinds of ways to find clues.
How buried the bones were, like how. Especially if they found any of them in the dirt, those deteriorate.
How much detritus is on top of them.
Or anything like that. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. But, okay, so there were fragments of clothing. And as I said earlier, there was a shoe found in the hole with her. So he was able to put together a description of her outfit that she was wearing at the time of death. And so at this point, they tried to figure out who she was, and they figured that probably she was from somewhere in the area. They wouldn't have too much trouble finding her. Well, guess again. First off, they've got the most obvious thing to do is the dental records, because she'd had a tooth pulled and she had a messed up information to every dentist in the region, and it was all a dead end. Nobody had any records to identify her by. Yeah. So they checked her clothes. The clothing that she wore was, and of course, again, it's some versions of this story, which I don't find believable, but some versions say that all the labels have been removed from the clothes. Yeah, I know.
No, it's the Tom and Shrewd killer all over again.
Oh, yeah, and the Istall woman, too. Yeah, I mean, hey, I know. Yeah.
She was a spy.
Yeah. But no, actually, they were able to find labels in her clothes, and they were from fairly common brands, and then really didn't provide any real good leads. Her shoe that they found was a somewhat unique shoe, and that gave them hope. And they actually went to the time and trouble to track down all but 4 of the pairs of these shoes that had been sold. They tracked down all of them. Don't ask me how they managed to do this. Nonetheless, they didn't find out who this person was through the shoes either.
Weird.
Yeah, I know. So frustrating investigation for our Popo. I mean, forget finding the murderer. They can't even figure out who she was.
Yeah.
So anyway, in December 1943, somebody put graffiti on a wall in Birmingham. Birmingham is a nearby city, the nearest industrial city. Somebody wrote, "Who put Lubella in the witch elm? Hagley Wood," on a wall in the city. And so this,
that's odd.
Yeah.
That's probably the oddest part of this whole thing to me, is that somebody starts graffitiing this.
And like a couple of months later, too, right?
About over 6 months.
Yeah, no, I mean, it continued for decades. But anyway, they gave a name to the corpse anyway. So,
Lubella.
But,
and did that yield any results? Did they start searching for every Lubella in the area?
I think they were looking at missing persons reports, a person's called Lubella or Bella, whatever. But again, dead end.
I wonder if Lubella was slang for something in the local vernacular.
Seems like that would have been recorded, though, don't you think?
Well, but if it's something that in the town somebody has randomly started using this name to assign to some kind of person, and it kind of dies out. There's all kinds of fads with words.
Sure, but as a diligent police officer, you're writing your police report, and somebody writes this thing on there, and you say, this graffiti pertains to the case, and oh, by the way, Lubella is slang for a loose woman.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe
you would think.
Maybe
I just wonder.
Yeah, I have no idea. I think I've heard that Lubella was not an uncommon name in the Midlands. So somebody probably decided it might have been somebody who actually knew who she was. And
I wonder
put
if that's
that up
a local phrase, a local term for what we would now say Jane Doe.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah.
Maybe.
But anyway, so now Bella had a name, which is Bella. And naturally, the police were interested, because this guy called her by name, and so the police thought that perhaps a graffiti artist knew something about the case, and so they put the word out that they wanted to have a word with him. And surprisingly enough, he never came forward.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, whoever did the graffiti.
We'd like to talk to you.
No, I mean,
arrest you.
We want to talk to you. It has nothing to do with the graffiti. It just has to do with this murder case. We probably won't arrest you.
Yeah, right. Well, we'll arrest you for the graffiti.
Yeah.
All right, so a lot of theories, and rumors were flying around the area. Because obviously, this is a very creepy murder.
Yeah.
It's bound to give people the willies. So the first one was it was witchcraft.
Oh.
There was a professor named Margaret Murray who wrote a book about this murder and another murder that happened about 25 miles away, not too much after this. And she claimed that she had been done in a sort of black magic execution. She said that in her book that you can trap a witch's spirit and stop her from continuing to do evil, bad deeds with her spirit beyond the dead. And you can trap it by stuffing her into a witch elm tree. And also, you can sever the right hand of a dead criminal, and the hand becomes a very powerful talisman.
The hand of power.
The hand of power.
Interesting.
Which is in all kinds of fantasy books and stuff. It's always the hand of power, and I don't know if you've found this in your research, but the hand of power, you always hear it about, it's a candle. So it's basically from about the mid forearm up, or maybe the wrist up, and you basically burn the fingers like candles, and they're supposed to have some kind of mystical power, and you can do things. That's a very common trope.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Of course, the problem I have with that theory is, well, if you've just acquired this powerful talisman, why did you just drop it at the base of the tree and walk away?
Maybe it was too powerful.
Maybe that was it.
Maybe it's got to ripen.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe after they realized what they'd done, they were kind of grossed out.
Or maybe it's just another way to strip that witch of the power, right? You cut off the right hand, so you strip her of her power even more, and then you don't really need it. You don't want it. Maybe you're not a witch covenant. Maybe you're just trying to get rid of a witch that lives in your area.
Yeah, that's a good point. But again, I would take that hand and I would bury it at least 3 feet deep.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, the other funny thing about it is, I think you had mentioned this in there, Joe, is that the whole hand of a thief or murderer, which is one of the two, wasn't it? I've seen accounts where it'll say it's the left hand, it's the right hand, or it's both. So it's funny that she says it's specifically that hand because it just mates up with the evidence.
Maybe it depends on whether the witch is right-handed or left-handed.
In a lot of Middle Eastern cultures, they tend to cut off a hand. That's like the punishment for a thief. And I think usually they cut off the non-dominant hand first, and then they cut off the dominant hand.
That's reasonable, yeah.
If you keep stealing.
Yeah.
Like you don't keep stealing after that.
I guess some people probably do.
After you get the second hand taken?
With their teeth maybe?
On the other hand?
Yeah. The whole problem with that when you think about it is that after you've had your left hand chopped off, then it's probably going to be harder to find work, and you're going to have to resort to stealing just to eat.
For sure.
Yeah. The flaw in this logic, but...
Yeah. So, and she also tied that her murder, as I said previously, there was another murder of a man not too long after this, about 25 miles southeast in a village called Lower Quinton. A guy was found pinned to the ground by a pitchfork, which is kind of creepy. But again, that's not exactly evidence of witchcraft, though.
No, not really.
Yeah. So anyway, she eventually sort of used up her credibility and was found to be a hack. So it was nonetheless that theory was very popular with the public and the press for a long time.
Oh yeah, that's sensational.
It was pretty sensational.
That sells papers.
Oh hell yeah. This next theory is a little more credible. She was a German spy.
I like this one.
Yeah,
I really like this one.
So the first 10 years after the body was found, a letter was sent to the Wolverhampton Express and Star by somebody who called herself Anna, Claverley. Claverley is a village about 10 miles northwest of Hagley Woods. Yeah, and so she was not too far away. She claimed that she knew people involved, that they had formed essentially a spy ring operating in the West Midlands, and what they were doing was mostly identifying munitions factories for the Luftwaffe, so they could come in and bomb them and shoot missiles at them and stuff. Yeah, good wartime. Yeah, objective. So this little spy ring was composed of a British officer, some Dutch guy, and a foreign trapeze artist, and other accounts he was a music hall artist. I'm going to go with music hall artist, actually, because that's a little more believable than trapeze artist.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, the British officer, Dutch guy, and the other guy were in this little spy ring, and Bella happened to fall in with these guys somehow. She was supposedly a Dutch woman who had gotten involved, had learned too much, and so she had to be murdered. So she was, so she was murdered by the Dutch guy and the music hall artist in Hagley Wood, and then stuffed in the tree. This is a little vague because it's like, seriously, I'm not sure exactly what she found out, why she had to be murdered. But it's the only thing we got to go with.
So, and if you're a spy, nobody's going to know.
Yeah.
So anyway, but it doesn't really say, this particular one doesn't really say that she's a spy, but it seems like she's a Dutch woman from overseas
who ran afoul.
Which means she's a spy.
Could have been a spy. Yeah.
A Dutch woman from overseas. That means she's a spy.
She's a spy. All right. So this person, Anna, only ID'd one person by name, who was the British officer who conveniently died in 1942, supposedly insane. So she did not name any of the other two. So even though the police tracked her down and questioned her, she didn't really provide any good leads. And as far as the British officer that she named, the guy died insane in 1942. Well, you don't usually go from sane to insane in like a year's time.
Well, and here's the issue. If this guy died in he died in 1942.
Yeah.
She supposedly had been dead for 18 months, is the approximation.
Yeah, which means that she would have been murdered in 1941.
41. Okay. All right. The timeline works. All right.
It does. Yeah,
and we don't know how long if he was insane. I'm assuming he was locked up in a sanitarium, and we, of course, probably don't know how long that was.
Mm-hmm. So, I don't know how long it took him from being rational and lucid to becoming insane, having to go to the loony bin.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe if he had to watch her die or kill
that could have been what pushed him over the edge.
Yeah, maybe.
Something.
Yeah, maybe
he was somehow involved in her death.
Yeah, but he wasn't. It was a Dutch dude and the music hall artist.
Oh right.
Yeah. So anyway, in 1968, following with this spy theme, a writer named Donald McCormick published a book called "Murder by Witchcraft," which said that she was a Nazi spy and an occultist.
Oh, that Bella was?
Yeah, Bella.
Let's just marry both these things together.
I know. So, but it's interesting from what I haven't actually gone and read his book, but from what I've read about some summaries of it, he doesn't really claim any occult element in the whole thing, other than that she was an occultist. So I don't really get that. But her name was Clarabella. McCormick, the author, claimed that he had seen Obver records on her and that she had indeed parachuted into the West Midlands in 1941, and she was never heard from again.
She just got stuck in the tree.
Yeah, it could have been. She just went plonk right into the tree.
Like one of those cartoons, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Just like, I got stuck in a hole.
That's some bad,
yeah,
some really bad luck, I guess.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
that's where B.D. Cooper is too, right?
B.D. Cooper?
Yeah, right? He just got stuck in a tree.
Yeah, there is theories that D.B. Cooper did get stuck in a tree.
He just got stuck in a tree.
I think he got impaled on a big Doug fir.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
telling you, it happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So, yeah, anyway, so, maybe she parachuted directly into the tree and, don't pass go, don't collect $200. Yeah.
Well, okay, wait. All right, I'm just gonna put the kibosh on that one right now because if she parachuted directly into the tree,
The parachute would have been on her.
where's her parachute?
Yep.
Where's her gear?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So,
She was parachuting with magic.
yeah.
Ah,
Well, one author actually said that it's possible that if she parachuted directly into the tree, and I'm not supporting this idea, but somebody who found a parachute would have, just because there was a shortage of things like cloth in those days too, people would have actually taken it and just cut it up and made it into stuff, made it into
Yeah,
clothing.
but
What
the
about the
harness
pack?
would have been on her.
yeah, the
She would have
pack.
had some stuff on her too, and so maybe somebody stole that too, or I don't know. I don't buy this theory at all.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Because I mean, number one, the professor, as I said earlier, he reconstructed the outfit that she was wearing. She wasn't exactly wearing parachute into enemy territory clothing.
Yeah.
She was wearing a dress.
Yeah.
So